CTM. What's going on, everyone? Hope you're well and doing great. Jay Cora, Trump says they're begging. They're begging to make a deal. I don't know if I want to make a deal, but they're begging to make a deal. Guys, this doesn't look like there's going to be any type of deal that's made. Now, that's not to say that Trump is not like, well, we're going to give them more time. That could happen. The negotiation, getting people to the negotiating table, because negotiations are happening. They're begging. If that were to happen, markets could get a reprieve out of there. But 24 here coming in hard, and it looks like that the likely path is going to be trying to gain more leverage, and that leverage is going to be gained through what looks like some boots on the ground. And that could go really bad. And depending on how that goes, is more importantly not as much as if we lose 24,000 here or not. It's really like the price of oil, and the price of oil long term over here trading right now at $96, and it was put at, well, let me get to that. Let me build up to that. All right. Let me build up to that. Let's start over here. Let's start off with Cabby taking a look at what's going on. Gold revaluation. What's going on with the state of the dollar. Let's just take a look over here, build our way in, and with a bit of a climax. And so dollar reserve share, right? 50 declining empire signal. That's a tough one. Right? Whoa, we could go bigger and smaller. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was possible. Oh yeah. All right, I can't even do it again. So right now we're seeing, by the way, this is old data over here, but this will help me. Right now, 56 to 58% of global dollar making up global reserve currency. And if you go back to where it peaked, it was around 2000, 2001. Right away, I was like, oh, that's when the euro really was able to put on a nice run versus the dollar. If you look at what happened over here, you see that the dollar's declined from where it peaked, and then where it's been level pretty much since. There's a big decline over here in during the pre-COVID era, but that was with the euro gaining that dominance. And this stops at 2024, and I imagine right here the yuan is 2.1%. Yeah, I imagine it's a little bit higher now, but a little bit higher, and probably not greater than 3.5% if it were. And you could see that the dollar has been stabilizing. The yuan has been stable as well. I don't really believe that we're seeing at this particular moment today any type of de-dollarization. Now, of course, I know there's been like 26 ships that have passed through the Strait of Hormuz, and a bunch of them have paid like $2 million yuan, and that's happening. But let me just jump over to here, and in this video here, Andre is talking about Luke Groman's thesis of the dollar going to be devalued, and in order to help bring down the price of gold to oil ratio. Guys, right now today, Russia has been like, listen, like like we just sold the top. The central bank was able to raise $1.5 billion selling the top, getting rid of some gold, but like no other gold could leave the country. No gold could be sold right now, and likely they're going to be trading with China in yuan and then settling in gold. If the U.S. were to revalue gold, I think what it would do is make two of its opposing the Chinese and Russia, not only put them into a stronger position of power financially, but at the same time, it would probably force their trade and settlement in gold a lot more. If this war doesn't end soon, the ramifications one of the ramifications could be a severe blow to trade taking place in the dollar, specifically what's passing through the Strait of Hormuz, and that could definitely dent the dollar's reserve status. It could happen. There's another slide over here he was pointing out that I want to bring up, and it has this is and by the way, one of the risks, this is a stress indicator Cabby was putting out. He's talking about, you know, oil risk, right? Very high. That could get like, we don't know what happens this weekend, and I can envision, and everyone could envision, one of two outcomes, polar outcomes, where this goes from a bad situation to really bad situation with elevated oil prices that are going to be not only above 100, moving towards 150 and not coming down. That's going to have massive global ramifications. It will set off a global recession. And first, it's going to happen what's going to happen in the United States is, obviously, first, the people on the lower portion of that K-shaped economy, they're going to feel it. They're going to be like, they're already feeling it at the pump. Everyone on tight budgets. There's not an extra room to pay an extra $150, $200 a month in gasoline fees compared to just 6 weeks ago. And then slowly, you're going to start seeing that move up throughout the economy. It's going to get bad. Private credit stress is up there as well. And, listen, you're seeing a lot of talk now about private credit, probably for good reason. It's probably much like the CBOs back during the financial crisis of 2008, that no one understands it. And after the fact, everyone will then be able to explain what took place. Right now, I'm sure very few people really have an idea of what's happening. And it probably would look a lot like, if need be, if it was something something systematic, you would see that they would do a one-off print, much like we saw in March 2023, help bail out whatever needs to be bailed out, put out that fire. I don't know if that's going to be something that breaks the market. We'll find out. The oil is the main concern over here for sure. Moving over to Bitcoin's dominance and bond demand being weak and deteriorating. Well, we have two things that could happen over here, and so we could have the increased treasury buybacks, which will continue, and they're getting rid of a lot of long duration and just focus on that short duration. And then, of course, we have um, the proliferation of stablecoins, right? And if that were to happen, that's obviously something that would put a bid into U.S. Treasuries. I think in order for that to happen, they're going to have to send Bitcoin. And I think that the United States advantage over China and Russia, as far as looking at gold as a, um, we'll call it choice of settlement, choice of pristine collateral, Bitcoin behooves the United States a lot more for two reasons. First of all, they hold within the country a lot more coin. I was going to say corn, as well as the higher the price of Bitcoin goes, the more entrenched the stablecoin market comes throughout the world. And yeah, people around the world, they want to hold dollars, and then that's going to go ahead and put a bid into the US Treasury market. I don't know. I would be betting on Bitcoin over here. I am betting on Bitcoin over here. I think that's what will happen. Couple of things. This is what is potentially setting up over here this weekend, as it does not seem that Iran is interested in coming to the table. Now, what is interesting? Wait, what? Anti China? I mean, true enough. You know, uh, yes. Hold on one second. The comments were off. I want to catch up over here, and then we'll continue forward. Yeah, this was first floated. The first time I heard this was back in late 2022, and it was the guy that went on Joe Rogan as Bitcoin was trading like $16,900, and was like Bitcoin's going to zero. And you guys all remember that meme, that guy, right, on Joe Rogan. And he was the first person. He says a lot of interesting things. I mean, I don't whatever about that. But one of the interesting things he's talked about would be there would be a domestic price in the United States for oil, and then whether or not it's a global price, two different prices, or different regions having different prices, right? You could picture like parts of Asia having a different price. Right now, Australia is one of the first casualties of what is taking place right over here, right? The U.S., they don't have their strategic reserve is gone. Biden sold that down ahead of the election, and Trump never filled it up when he had the opportunity. And then it would probably help put the United States in a better position right now. United States, largest producer of oil in the world. However, they don't produce the type of crude. Their sweet crude is not what their refineries are fitted for. It would be a massive undertaking of having to do that. By the way, when Luke's focused on the price of gold and oil, I think he's getting the denominator wrong. I think what's way more important than oil, and of course, guys, we're talking about that what happens over the and it could be over what happens over the next few days could really determine whether or not we're about to go enter into a global recession with massive ramifications. Massive ramifications. Now, I think what's much more important than oil today is compute. It's the semiconductors. And we all know that Taiwan is the golden goose producing all of the semiconductors. China wants it, right? We are seeing Taiwan Semiconductor building plants in the United States, and that, let's say, progress is going a little bit faster than expected, but still years away. Elon could actually be the bringer of a major change in world geopolitical dynamics if he were to go ahead and be able to pull off the semiconductor fab within the United States that he has plans for. That would then make Taiwan no longer like a high political concern, and right now it's probably of the highest. Well, Jordan, you can't print semiconductors either. People are like, you can't print oil. No, you can't print oil, and if it came down to it, well, again, as far as the United States, the reason there could be a different price than globally is we got a lot of oil. It's not really an issue. Um, Hateful. Dude, guys, what are you talking about? I sound anti-Semitic. That's ridiculous. Where have we talked about anything that had to? Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Um, as far as Chinese propaganda, I think I'm more entrenched in U.S. propaganda, being that, um, you know, for sure I'm more entrenched in U.S. propaganda. I don't believe anyone. So, as far as whether or not the U.S. needs to revalue gold in order to help get down the gold to oil ratio, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it could happen, and it's a very low probability. I think that I've been talking about a long time, a slow motion reset happening in gold, and I think that continues unless we see a game changer, and it doesn't. This war doesn't seem to be pushing Russia towards any type of agreement with the United States at this point where they would return to settlement in US treasuries. And it does seem to be pushing them further to looking at using gold as a settlement later. Oh, systematic. You get me flagged bringing up any play on words. I think that in this world that we are moving into, that energy is actually going to become a lot more abundant. I think that, yeah, I would venture to say, and I think it's probably a little bit, semiconductors are probably, and compute is probably a lot more important at this particular moment for where we are. Um, Pentagon is developing military operations final blow that could include the use of ground forces and a massive bombing campaign. What else is left to bomb? They said they bombed everything. So looking at what a lot of people are looking at, invading or blockading the Karg Island, that would shut off Iran's source of income. Invading Larik, an island that helps solidify Iran's control of the Strait Hormuz. Seizing strategic. Look, if they go in, it seems like they're not just like a lot of people were thought, and they're just going for the Karg Island. It seems that it's going to be a pretty big campaign, and a lot rides on it. And what rides on it most of all is what Iran's response is. If you remember, going back a week ago, Iran made it very clear, including spelling out targets all across every country in the Middle East, that it would hit if its energy infrastructure was attacked again. Its energy infrastructure has been attacked twice since, and they have not retaliated. That's the only thing that points to me that Iran is in a really weak place at this particular moment. And it seems that if they do, if we go to see an if we see the United States actually move towards this operation, call it final blow, whether it's the final blow or not, and Iran does respond by looking to take everyone down with them, then we're going to wake up on Monday and the price of oil is going to be a lot higher than any of us could imagine. And then I imagine that this didn't work out, you know? Um, if that happens and we look back and we say, okay, you know, let's go to a higher time frame over here. Let's go back to that monthly we were looking at over here, or we were looking at 2 weeks for a while. I mean, guys, it's all riding on oil, and it's all riding on what happens with the current operation here in Iran. And it could go the other way. If you were to see the United States pull off a successful operation, gain control of the strait at that particular point in time, they would be probably soon thereafter they were able to, let's say, implement a leader of their choice, one who's going to be working with the United States. And then at that point in time, we would get the future of abundance. And what that means is that oil is headed back down towards $40. And at that point in time, we were going to see probably a big, big, big boom and headed back towards that reacceleration. Mm, yeah. Listen. So a lot of the what's happening in the metals right now looks to me like amazing, wonderful opportunity. It's going to take a while to play out. I think that they are going to be likely consolidating here for a while, and up until we start seeing that it looks like monetary policy is going to return towards um, being able to move back towards loosening. The one thing that could change that would be brief and major spikes up if at any point in time we were to see that there's no choice here but to get rates down as close to zero, and they need to go ahead and reinitiate outright QE. Aside from that, we're probably looking at Bitcoin outperforming both of these from here on in. Yeah, I've seen a lot of rhetoric coming out, especially from Saudi Arabia and from the United Arab Emirates, and they obviously do not like the fact that Iran here is a complete danger to them. That they've been attacked by Iran, and they want to see Iran become basically impotent. And whether or not they're going to be able to go ahead and if you start seeing after this weekend, if you were to see the United States pull off a successful operation, and at that point in time, I think that you would see a lot of the Middle Eastern countries uniting and kind of like now that it looks like the win is in sight and standing up. But yeah, it's beyond complicated. Also, being that Israel is the one attacking Iran. Well, let's pray for peace because it is needed more than ever. We're looking at Bitcoin here trading back down to 69,000. Below here sets up a major leg down right now into support, but this is completely news related to whether or not this situation is able to come to any type of let's say just like negotiating beginning. And it does not seem like the Iranians, who have lost everything, and right now all they could see is like the only way we win actually is if we get control of the Strait of Hormuz, if we get to charge for all the cargo passing through it, and if the United States gives us their word that they're not going to attack us anymore. And that's what they're fighting for. And the only way that it seems that the upper hand could be had by the United States would be if they were able to actually pull off a massively difficult operation and get control of the strait in order for um, in order for the Iranians to have no choice but to concede. So yeah, so they lose either way. They, they lose either way, right? But the problem is that they would be taking out energy infrastructure, and the ramifications on the price of energy would not be like, oh, this is a quick resolution and the price of crude is gonna sink like a rock in water. No, it's gonna be that this is gonna take years and billions of dollars to get this back online, and we're gonna be looking at oil trading at an elevated price, well over $120, and that is gonna cause demand destruction across the world, and that's something that you won't be able to repair. So whether or not they do that or not, I don't know. We'll find out. But that's the bad situation, right? That would be something that, you know, tear up all your plans. Um, Don pointed out over here that it has been pretty good on the once a day filter. Again, this is good for those who only want to trade manually buy side boost once a day. And you have throughout all of this chop up a couple opportunities on Ethereum, Solana. Don noting that, well, it's actually worked out really well, as even saying two negative trades, the minus 3.8% on Ethereum and then a small loss on Solana. But by entering the full amount on Solana first and then taking partial profits to enter the Ethereum trade, actually worked out, gaining more US dollars in that tough situation. We're seeing here Solana taking a loss, Ethereum taking a slight loss after first saving it yesterday, and then back to break even here on buy side boost 3 times a day. And then, of course, we are just completely sidelined and for most of 2026 on our equities. And then we are trying our best to navigate here through this extraordinarily difficult regime that we're in. Ace pointed out in the very beginning, and he's like, look, this is just horrible trading. And it's true, but it's going to open up, and it's going to open up in a minute. And when I say a minute, the clock is ticking, and coming into the weekend, either there's going to be probably like right at the bell, Trump tweeting something in order to put some type of hopium into the market, and or we're going to see a big crash and burn, and it could be wild over the weekend. Thank goodness that crypto does trade 24/7, because depending on how the success of that operation goes would be how the markets are going to turn next. Yeah, there's been a bit of, I mean, guys, if Stanley gets this right, if Druckenmiller, who was like, listen, I think copper is the best trade that I've seen in my career right now, except that I think I'm going to wait for an absolute crisis and for the Fed to have to come in and rescue before taking it. And I remember it was trading at like $6 when he said that. And I'm like, man, could you believe the gall on this guy to line up the best trade of his career and then be looking at the macro and being like, it's just not time yet. I mean, did he have any idea that Trump was gonna attack Iran and cause this situation? I mean, obviously he didn't, but man, the legend for a reason. Listen, the problem is for most people is that when there are fire sale prices, they have no capital. Don't forget, guys, what has been happening here, even in this tough regime. I mean, you could look at the buy side boost trading for the year, and you're looking at Ethereum minus 0.5%, Bitcoin 10%, Cardano taking the full loss now, down minus 9%, plus another 7%, right? Get an absolute, but the capital what is going on today? I need some sardines and some eggs to get going over here. The capital preservation that's been taking place. Same thing on equities over here as we've seen, you know, look at this. Tesla, last trade, exit 460, down to 370, right? Across the board. And if we were to see a really horrific situation and scenario, knowing that on the eventual eventual turn out of it, that we're there and being able to put effective capital to work, that then is going to solidify why you put the work in. All right, y'all, we grind through for now. We grind through for now, and it's all about what takes place. Bonds are not happy at all as oil's rising once again, and this is where we are today. We'll keep it short and sweet because we're waiting here on, unfortunately, what comes over the wire, what news is running this market at this particular moment. Cabby, thanks for putting out that interesting topics for us to take a look at. I'm gonna do, as you suggested a few weeks ago, the whole revamp of our discussion channels in the Discord. Probably not for another week or two. Until now, or for now, everyone, stay on the right side. Have a beautiful day. God bless you, CTM. I'll see you all on the inside.